Hi guys, Gersh here, and today we're going to look at the new features of Revit MEP 2016. What I've got installed here is Revit from one of the building design suites. This contains all three disciplines, so you've got your architecture, your structure and your systems. But as we're concentrating on MEP, I'm going to jump straight over here onto the systems tab. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that there is a new panel that's been introduced, the fabrication panel. So we are going to look at this a bit further. If I click on the fabrication part icon, it opens up a new window, an MEP fabrication parts window. Currently, there are no parts loaded in. So what I can do is I can come down to the bottom right hand corner here and go into settings, or I can go into the fabrication panel up here and click on the little drop down here to go into the settings as well. Either way will open up the same fabrication settings window, and in here by default it is set to none. We're going to look to load in our own content, but you can load in existing content from your CAD fabrication applications. I have downloaded the metric fabrication configuration that comes with the software. This is a separate install which will sit under its own name in add and remove programs. When I select this, it loads in the fabrication services contained. I'm just going to pick a couple at random. And load them in by clicking the add button. I can remove them in a similar fashion by using the remove button. If additional services are required, then you will need to use the reload configuration button, but for the moment I'm just going to click OK. As you can now see, the MEP fabrication parts window has become live with the services we loaded. We can click on the drop down here to select different services that we've loaded, and depending on the services we have loaded, our groups will vary. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look to place a fabrication part into our model. So I'm just going to quickly change it here to general supply and go into my groups to select my different types of groups. I'm going to leave it to rectangular for the moment, and I'm going to pick a straight piece here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here and look to place it in my model. Now, before I go to place it, I've got a few options up here in my context ribbon. I've also got to look at my properties box over here and see what properties are available to me. So the first thing we're going to look at is the contextual ribbon. The first option we've got here is edit part. If I click on that, it's going to open up the edit part window. The first tab it's displaying there is dimensions, and in that I've got my width, my depth and my length. Now I can put in a value for width and depth, but my value for length has been grayed out. That's because my setting for length has been set to auto. This allows me to stretch my length. But what I can do is I can change that to a value and manually now type a value in. Okay, I'm going to change that back to auto and leave that for a moment. The other option I've got here is connectors, and what I've got is these are default connectors that have come in with my part. What I can do is I can click on down here on value and I can change my connectors. I'm just going to click on OK. The next option I have here is rotate part. So if I click on rotate part, it's just going to rotate my part 90 degrees. I can do the same thing in Revit by hitting the spacebar key, and that will do exactly the same function. Next to that, I've got toggle connectors. Now currently we are looking at the connector on the left hand side. If I click on toggle connectors, it is now giving me the connector on the right hand side. This little tool will become beneficial when you're looking to connect the same part in different areas. Next to that, we've got the smart snapping tool, which has already been highlighted for us. It's already in play. What we can do with that is if I now left click and place this straight piece here, when I hover to either side of it, you can see that the part snaps in to the existing member. So I'm just going to left click here and place two of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm just come up here and I'm going to click on modify to come out of the command. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on one of the parts we've created here. And as you can see, the properties box has now kicked in. We can specify our offsets and reference planes and things like that. We've also got the length option here, where we can change that to a value and manually amend it and change it around. Okay, So we've got quite a few of the properties come through. The other option we've got here, once we've selected it, is we can still do edit part, which takes us back to that same window we just looked at. The other one we've got here is if I actually stretch this out now to make it a bit longer, we can actually optimize lengths, and that'll automatically break it into segments. What I'm also going to do is I'm just going to quickly add in a radius bend here, and as you can see, it automatically resizes and fits in as it needs to. And if I hit the spacebar here, you can see the radius bend actually rotating around and going top or bottom depending on how we want to put it in. The other thing we can do is if I go into the groups up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the group to hangers, and in here I've got rectangular hangers. I've also got round duct supports here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangular hangers, and as you can see, they ultimately pick up the fabrication part, and what we can do is we can just click and drop them in. Now that I've dropped this in, if I go into 3D view here, what you can see is that that hanger has now gone in and it's in place, and it's an actual 3D part. If I click on that hanger, I do get an additional option here, which allows me to attach it to structure, so I can attach it to the underside of the structure above. And if I come up here and click on edit type, it doesn't make a difference if I've got the hanger selected or a straight piece. You can see that I don't have too many options available in type properties at the moment. One of the new features that's been added to the piping side of Revit MEP is the liters per minute unit symbols. If we quickly jump over to our Manage tab, go to our project units, in here we go into discipline and we change that to piping. In here we can look at flow, and we can change that from liters per second to liters per minute. I know this is something that a lot of people have asked for, and it has now been included in the 2016 release. A new feature to come into the electrical side of Revit MEP is the circuit sequence. If we go into our electrical settings here, and we go into the general tab, down here we've got circuit sequence, which by default Revit used to do numerically, but now we get the option of changing it to face or even odds then evens. Another new feature to come into the electrical side of Revit MEP is the assigned panel. When you create a circuit in Revit, you used to have to go through additional steps to assign a panel to that circuit. But now Revit will start using the most commonly used default panel and will assign that automatically. So if I go to create a circuit here, I select my lighting, create a power circuit, you can see up here in the ribbon that it has already assigned LP1 because that was the most commonly used panel, and it has now automatically assigned it to my circuit. So what I can do now is I can edit circuit, and we can carry on working as we would do normally. So there you go. Now if I tab through here, you can see that it's automatically been assigned to LP1. This was just a quick run through of some of the key features that are coming out in Revit MEP 2016. For more information on the other new features, fixes and improvements made, please have a look at our website www.excitec.co.uk. Thank you for watching.